Hi, welcome to this evening's reading of Dark Things by David Humphrey, Sr. If you've been following with us, thank you very much for being with us. We are now at Chapter 4, Dark Minds. Marcellus. Yeah, I'm done. You sure? Yeah. How many rolls did you shoot? Just finished wrapping up my second one. Pulling the film from the camera now. Shoot one more. Oh, Marcellus, come on. I got another murder to cover in Southeast. I gotta get there, man. I've been up all night shooting bodies in Northeast. I took 2 rolls. Man, that should be enough. I gotta save some for Steve's homicide. He called me on my cell phone twice already, wanting to know, Daryl. I couldn't care less. Just do your job, take the doggone pictures. Tell Steve that I said to call Bruce. Tell him to get here pronto. Oh, man, can't nobody stand to work with Bruce. Besides that, he called off sick again today. I've been doing his job and mine. That's not my problem. Get back to work. I want to catch this guy. Give me another roll. Now. I'll be in a minute. I'll tell you the angles that I want. Marcellus, all you ever think about is what you want. You never think about anybody but yourself and what you have to do. Other people have lives too. We can't cater to you all the time. You make me sick sometimes. You know that? Marcellus Grimes stuck his head around the corner and grinned. Well, if I make you sick, Darryl, you're in the right place. A hospital. Maybe I can get the doc to take a look at you, huh? And when you ought to do something about that gut, man. That's why you ain't got a woman now. No woman wants a man that looks like you. They want a pretty boy, he said, rubbing his clean-shaven, coffee and cream complexion. A real detective who's got it all, like me. You get on my darn nerves, man. So you made Detective of the Year. So what? That don't mean I have to be your personal crime scene photographer. Shut up, you little detective wannabe. Get back to work. Bill Trumbull, Marcellus's partner, winced at the comments. Man, Marcellus, why do you ride the little guy so much? Oh, 'cause that peon wants to be a detective someday. Failed the test 5 times. He was meant to be exactly what he is, a nothing. Say, listen, I want to run downstairs and get me a coffee. Can you finish up, give me these witness statements? I'll be right back. Say, Marcellus, give me one too while you're down there, okay? Sure, Bill, no problem. Anything for my partner, Marcellus said with a sly grin and headed for the cafeteria. Darrell Gibbons fished another roll from his pocket and reloaded the ancient motor-driven 35mm Nikon camera. He stepped up to the body of Ethel Mars and started shooting again. He wasn't waiting till Marcellus took his own sweet time to saunter into the room and survey it like it was his own private domain. He was going to shoot this last roll and get the heck out of Dodge. That's what he was going to do. He knelt and got another close-up of her neck. A tiny puncture wound cried a stream of bloody tears that had dried up hours ago, the hypo dangling from her neck like a spent dart. Hey, Darryl, you done in there yet? 'Cause here comes the meat wagon, boys. Yeah, almost, Bill. Just keep him in the hallway another minute while I give these last few shots. Say, hurry up, would you? They say they got another party to go to. So do I. I would have been done. Hadn't been for that bucket-headed donkey you call a partner. So don't rush me. You better not let him hear you call him that, Bill chuckled. Darrell stepped over the body, avoiding the dried blood here and there. He noticed a green button on the floor, under the bed, and a matching one in the nurse's hand. Hadn't noticed that before. He took a close-up of the button in her hand. Hey, Bill. Yeah. Did you see this green button in the victim's right hand? Yeah, of course. We're detectives, Daryl. That's what we do for a living. Remember? We detect. Ha ha, very funny. But did you see the matching one up under the bed, behind the left wheel? Huh? No, don't touch it. I'll be right there. Soon as I finish this nurse's statement. You finished yet? The morgue boys are getting pretty impatient. Darrell had one shot left and moved to a spot between the bed and the window. He had just stepped over one of Ethel's legs, trying to avoid the heavy door protruding from the wall, and didn't see a glistening tiny puddle of still fresh blood. Just as his right foot touched down, and he announced, Yeah, I'm done. It shot out from under him like he stepped on a bar of soap, and he fell backwards and down onto Ethel's lifeless body. Without thinking, his reflexes took over, and he reached up and caught hold of the bottom part of the window pane. And unfortunately, the jagged piece of glass that jutted up from there like a 6-inch razor. Ah! Daryl, what are you doing in there? A moment later, Bill came in, putting his pocket notebook away, followed by the coroner. Boy, what the? I cut myself on this stupid glass. I slipped under blood and grabbed the window to steady myself, and I cut my hand. Give me something to wrap it with, will you? And hey, wait a minute. Look! Darrell still stood by the window. At this angle, he saw something out of the window on the very narrow ledge outside. On the ledge, unseen by anyone until now, was yet another green button, identical to the one on the floor and the one found in the hand of the victim. And Marcella thought he was so smart. Darrell quickly wrapped his right hand with a handkerchief Bill gave him, then said, Bill, hold my legs. Suddenly, Darrell was dangling out the window, reaching for something outside. He leaned around the jagged piece of glass that had cut him, and Bill caught his legs just in time to keep him from slipping through the window to his death 5 floors below. Bill, give me something to scoop it up with, he said from outside. To scoop what? Bill said, puffing. The coroner handed him a small plastic bag, and Darrell carefully scooped up the button. Bill hauled the excited photographer technician back inside. What are you, crazy? I found it. I found something you guys missed. This, he said excitedly, holding up the clear little plastic bag and the little green button inside. I'll take that, Marcella said, walking into the room, snatching the plastic bag from Darrell's hand. Hey, shut up. Get out of here. You're done. We don't need you anymore, he said, sipping his coffee and placing the evidence in his pocket. Hey, wait, I found that. You gotta admit, Marcellus, the kid had a master eye to see that thing, 'cause we all missed it the first time through, remarked Bill. I ain't gotta admit nothing. Let a chump like this get away with thinking he can do detective work, and every clown in the precinct will be thinking they can be a detective in 3 easy lessons. Come on, let's go. You finished getting everybody's statements? Yeah, you got my coffee? Oh, I forgot, lied Marcellus. We'll pick up one on the way back to the station. A nurse came in and bandaged Darrell's hand, while the coroner gathered up the body and Bill bagged the other 2 buttons and then scurried off after his partner. Marcellus stopped in the corridor outside the room and said over his shoulder to Bill, I really want to get this guy. We bag this killer, this will really put us over the top, partner. Us or you? Bill said under his breath behind Marcellus. Huh? What was that? Nothing. Just thinking out loud. Out loud, that's all. She'd be a piece of cake with this. Marcellus pointed above the doorway to room 216. Above the now empty door frame sat a security camera designed to cover the whole floor. Room 216 was the last room on the floor, and the camera sat just above it in the corner. Nope, afraid not, said Bill, savoring the moment. What do you mean, nope? Already checked. Camera's been out for 3 weeks. The security supervisor said it didn't catch a thing. Marcellus cursed and stalked off down the hallway. and around the corner to a waiting bank of elevators. Bill walked behind him, trying to hide his delight at being able to deflate his partner's sizable ego. All right, listen, Marcella said with sudden inspiration, poking Bill in the chest with his index finger. He hated it when Marcellus did that. Marcellus was a pretty boy. All the women loved him until they got to know him, and all the guys hated his gut from the get-go. Handsome features, jet black wavy hair, and a complexion the color of cream coffee usually got him what he wanted from the local female population. But his fan club was dwindling rapidly. His ego was so big it was getting hard for him to enter a room without first turning his head sideways. We'll go down to the station and check the books for assaults over the past few months committed by guys over 6 feet. I'll bet money that our guy has a record. What we saw back there, he said, jerking his head toward Virginia's room. The guy that did that was vicious. That kind of anger just doesn't spring up overnight. Our boy is a rap sheet a mile long. I'll bet. We'll catch this son of a ding. The elevator doors opened, and two nuns walked out on their way to visit a patient, catching Marcellus in mid-sentence. Biscuits. Yeah, that's what we'll have for breakfast, Bill. Biscuits. Morning, sisters, Marcellus said, smiling. Just before the elevator door closed, he leaned over to Trumbull and whispered, Bad luck to curse in front of nuns, man. The man upstairs don't like that. Bill had no comment. This case bothered him. There was something really strange about it. He was convinced of that when the fact dawned on him that he knew the victim. Virginia Sills, it turned out, was the last case he had worked on in the sex crimes unit before getting his promotion and transferring over into homicide. How weird was that? He thought about telling his partner, but then decided against it. Marcellus would probably try and take the credit for that too. No, he wasn't going to tell him. No, not yet. You know, I never did get any leads on the perp that did that crime. Cut her up like that. He made a note to check back with Mac in his old unit to see if they had come up with anything. Had the perp come back to finish the job and the nurse just got in the way? So many what ifs. He needed a cup of coffee. Bad. Darrell sat on fresh sheets on the bed across from Virginia's bloodstained one. He hated hospitals and couldn't wait to get out. The nurse was friendly, efficient, and caring. Still, he couldn't wait to leave. Then his thoughts turned to Marcellus. I'm going to show him one day. I'm going to show every one of them, he said to himself. Show them what? Asked the nurse. That I do have what it takes to be a detective. Well, I believe you, she said as she finished bandaging Darrell's hand. Is that too tight? No, it's okay. You really should have stitches, you know, she admonished. No. His eyes grew wide. I don't know what you're afraid of. I'm not afraid of nothing. It's just not that bad, that's all. Yeah, right. If you say so, she chided. Dr. Gray, calling Dr. Gray to the ER, the loudspeaker squawked, filling the awkward silence between them. Do you, really believe that? Darrell asked. What? That I can be whatever I want to be. A detective. Of course, she said with the most disarming smile he had ever seen. You can be whatever you set your mind to be, if you work at it hard enough. Say, what's your name? Catherine. Why? Thanks, Catherine. I'm Darrell, he said, extending his good hand to shake hers. You know, you have beautiful eyes, and you really have a way of helping a man to feel good about himself. He thought for a moment, then said, and you know what? What? I'm going to find that killer, and I want to make detective. I don't care what it takes. Wow, aren't we the confident ones? She said, flashing another smile. She could tell that he liked her. And she thought he was cute. Seemed to be a pretty nice guy. She didn't like how Marcellus had tried to humiliate him. Darrell looked into her lovely hazel eyes and almost couldn't believe it when he heard himself say, I feel like I could do anything after looking at you. Her olive skin blushed a deep red as he continued, listen, I know we just met and all, but, would you, uh, w- w- would you go out, to dinner with me sometime? I mean, I understand if you said no, but I, she giggled and had to admit to herself she enjoyed watching him squirm. It was refreshing. Most of the guys her age she'd met since coming to DC were after only one thing, and that on the very first date. They all had the same tired line. Hi, baby. What's your name? Hmm, you fine. Can I get some of that? After a while, it just made her skin crawl. She'd even considered dating white guys for a while. Her friend Shaquita had said, why not? All the good black men are either locked up, married, or gay. No, Shaquita girl, that ain't true. There's a good black man out there somewhere, and I'm going to find him. Shaquita had accepted her challenge and stuck her pinky in Catherine's face. Bet, she said defiantly. Catherine hooked it with her own pinky and said, okay, bet. How much? Catherine thought for a moment. How much? Prodded her friend. Wait a minute. I'm thinking. $50. $50? Catherine exclaimed. Shaquita had leaned across the table in the hospital's cafeteria, her dark extensions falling unnoticed into her mashed potatoes. You just scared 'cause you know I'm right. All right, it's a bet. $50. And I want my money too, said Catherine, as confidently as she could. Now, here she was, looking this guy in the face. Not bad. Not bad looking at all. She was 23, and he looked to be about 25, 26, medium build, cute mustache, nice brown skin, average looking, but okay. He could stand to work out a little though, but if she thought he was worth it, she could work on that. He obviously had a good job. So far, so good. So if you want to sometime, Darrell asked. Sure, I'd love to sometime, Catherine answered. His face exploded into a smile that was contagious. You would? Yes. Great, thanks. Good. I look forward to that. Good, great. They exchanged numbers, and just then Darrell's cell phone violated their personal moment with his urgent ring. Excuse me. Hello, Gibbons. Oh, hi, Steve. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, man. But they gave this case to Marcellus, and you know how he is. But I'm on the way now. I should be there in 30 minutes. Okay, okay, bye. He ended the call. I'm sorry, Catherine. I gotta go. But listen, I'll call you tonight about 10. Make it 9:30, and you got a deal. I work some long hours sometimes, so I try to get to bed kind of early. Okay, great. 9:30. Great. Okay, I gotta run. All right, I'll talk to you later, she said, and closed the tall supply cabinet door. She waved as she walked out of the room. And don't disappoint me, she thought to herself as she left. As Catherine had closed the supply cabinet, something caught Darrell's eye that could just barely be seen under the cabinet of the room's single sink. It was a small, weather-beaten, run-over hat. So a couple of green buttons weren't the only thing that Marcellus had missed. Okay, Darrell, he said to himself, in for a penny, in for a pound. If you do this, there's no turning back. He made sure no one was watching, snatched up the hat, and quickly placed it in his jacket pocket. Maybe it was something, maybe not. Maybe it belonged to the killer. Maybe it belonged to the last guy that had the room. Who knew? but there was only one way to find out. He grabbed his photo gear, pounded his way down the hall to the elevator. Thankfully, when he got there, Marcellus and Bill were already long gone. Later that night, about 11:15, a flashlight beam danced like a mischievous firefly on the grounds behind St. Michael's Hospital. It danced around the massive air conditioning unit, searching, looking. It played along the ground for hours, finally making its way over to the huge pile of sand behind a dumpster, and paused for long moments on two knee-deep indentions in the middle of the sand pile. Like a luminous bloodhound, it followed the indentations as they became two sandy tracks, and then footprints leading off toward the street in the rear of the hospital. In following the fading trail, the flashlight stopped suddenly, and the bearer grunted in surprise and then gave a short, triumphant laugh. Immediately, there was a brilliant and blinding flash of light, followed instantly by the click and whir of a motor-driven 35mm camera. The figure behind the flashlight bent down and examined something on the ground very closely. The figure quickly pulled a clear plastic evidence bag from its pocket, scooped up a small object, held it up before the beam to study it again. The green button glowed eerily in the grip of the powerful tungsten bulb, and Darrell smiled to himself confidently. "I knew it! I knew it!" he whispered euphorically. He also knew that he was removing evidence from a crime scene, which was a definite no-no, but he felt justified. He had relayed his theory dutifully to his superior, his supervisor, as soon as he'd returned from the field. It was received with less than expected enthusiasm. But what had happened afterwards was at first what had devastated him, then strengthened his resolve. After talking to his supervisor, Lieutenant Lawrence Stewart, Darrell hurried to the gym for his workout. The gym was under renovation. Self-conscious about his body, Darrell headed to his favorite spot to work on his sit-ups. Just past the free weights, out of sight of everyone, behind a huge pile of old lockers, was a small 6 by 6 foot area where he did his sit-ups and push-ups. The pile had been there for months, yet to be taken to the dumpster. It was here, while he lay exhausted from his personal battle of the bulge, that he had heard someone come in and walk over to the free weights and begin a workout. Moments later, someone else came in. "Hey, Lawrence, what's going on?" "Marcellus, just the man I needed to see." Lawrence grinned. "Man, do I have a laugh for you." "Yeah, what is it?" "I could use a good laugh," said Marcellus, starting to do his warm-ups. Darrell lay there on his back, out of sight, fuming as he listened to their conversation. His supervisor had gone behind his back and told Marcellus. The two had had a huge laugh about the whole thing. Marcellus had said, "Any fool would know that nobody can make a jump like that and live. Stupid little—" "No, wait. You know what, Lawrence? Go ahead and let that little failure do his own investigation," he said mockingly. "Go ahead, so that the whole department can find out what a real idiot he is, if they don't know already." Darrell lay there for an hour, furious, angry, outraged, and hurt that his supervisor and friend would betray his confidence so readily. Finally, their workout was done. There was one last burst of laughter as the two walked off toward the showers. He had made some inquiries later and found out that Lawrence and Marcellus had actually gone to Roosevelt High School together and had been friends ever since graduating from the local high school. He would prove them wrong, all of them. He took several more shots of the sand pile, the indentations, the footprints, and then of the broken hospital window 5 floors up. He stared at the window. "I don't know who you are or how in the world you made that jump," he said quietly, almost reverently, "but whoever you are, I'm coming to get you, because you're going to help me make detective." Pitt stood docilely before the shimmering image of the TV screen. The streaked and smeared window of the electronics store reflected his huge and filthy image back to him. It was a typical image for one of the thousands of homeless in the muggy city. He swayed slightly, as if seasick, a slow ballet of imbalance. Whether it was from the strength of the vodka clutched tightly to his chest, or from the overwhelming heat magnified tenfold by the overcoat he wore, an observer would be hard-pressed to say. A poor excuse for a breeze attempted to push the stifling night heat off the deserted streets of Washington, D.C. It succeeded only in pushing a tattered piece of paper several feet along the deserted sidewalk. Failing in its attempt to cool the suffocating city, the breeze fled the sweltering heat of D.C. as if in fear for its life. And finally, to recap the local news, police are looking for two people, a man and a woman, wanted for questioning in a bizarre murder that took place in St. Michael's Hospital early this morning. The two were observed racing from the scene just before the body of nurse Ethel Mars was found. The woman being sought was actually a patient in the hospital at the time of the murder. Crime Stoppers is offering a reward for any information that leads to a conviction in the case of Nurse Mars and earnestly appeals to the public for help in solving this gruesome crime. The man is reported to be well over 6 feet tall. Police released this composite drawing of the male suspect. Arthur J. Pitt, filthy, unshaven, and unbathed for at least 6 weeks now, stood well over 6 feet tall himself, and on the mean streets was given a wide berth by ordinary people and other homeless alike. He was a man not easily intimidated, but as he stared at the composite of the brown giant, he felt a slight stirring of recognition of the man and a slow boil of conflicting emotions inside. He felt fear, anger, loathing, though he knew he had never seen the man before. These all tumbled deep down within him like a snowball rumbling downhill, gaining speed and force. He took a swig from the brown bag he held, and a gush of the clear and heady liquid spilled its way unnoticed down his chin, watering his matted and unkempt beard. There was something else, too, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. He shrugged it off and continued to watch and listen to the muffled broadcast through the store window. If it was something important, then he would remember. His voices would tell him. They always did. They took care of him. They told him things that no one else knew, secret things. Sometimes they also told him things to do. He frowned briefly at a disturbing memory. Sometimes they told him bad things to do, and he couldn't help himself. There were things that no one should be made to do, but he had no choice. The grocery clerk, the waitress at the Four Seasons, the cab driver on Florida Avenue, the girl last month in the alley behind the old Evening Star building. It was the price they demanded for helping him. They said they enjoyed watching him. He could feel them laughing and relishing the awful things he did, as if they lived vicariously through him. They may have enjoyed the things he did, but he didn't. They made him do those things. Liar, said a voice so near he felt the breath of it on the back of his neck. He looked around him, frightened, and seeing no one, he moaned softly and then said, Who is that? You know who it is, the gravelly voice said again. It was true. He did know, but he did not want to admit it to himself or to them. Admit it, the voice said in a repulsively sweet manner. You enjoy it as much as we do. No, you're wrong. I'm not listening to you, he said, trying to cover his ears with his hands. You can't stop us that way, Arthur. It's too late. Here it chittered in a peal of laughter so irritating and high-pitched that it seemed enough to shatter glass. It's much too late for that, it continued. We're already inside. This last announcement was followed by another, more frightening peal of laughter that terrified Arthur J. Pitt to his soul. Shut up! Shut up! I won't listen to you anymore. You're the devil. Leave me alone. Silence. Quiet. Before you cause a scene. We have another little assignment for you. Pitt groaned. Silence, I said. This should be easy for you. You could say that it's some unfinished business. Stop whimpering, fool. Watch the screen. There. See her? Remember her? The voice said slowly. His face became expressionless as he watched the rest of the news. He stood frozen in front of the Hits electronics store as he watched the muted images. No one else could be seen on the solemn streets. Washington, D.C. had become a bad place to be out alone at night. No one walked the streets at this hour but the cops, the criminals, and the insane. He stood and watched the screen as instructed. The next image that hit the screen bolted him to the ground, and he strained to hear the lilting stage voice of the Channel 4 news announcer as it droned on. The female, Virginia Sills, disappeared from her hospital room where the murder took place and is also sought by the police for questioning in the bizarre death of St. Michael's nurse Ethel Mars. Here's a recent photo of Miss Sills. Pitt dropped his soggy, whiskey-soaked bag and the bottle it held. Its valued contents, worth its weight in gold, shattered on the deserted sidewalk like pieces of a broken dream, splashing his run-over leather shoes and pant leg and anointing them with warm vodka. Remember her? His voices repeated. Yes, Pitt said slowly. She was the one that you, Pitt stammered. The one we told you to rape and kill, Arthur. But you didn't, did you? You failed us. Because you failed us, we will have to leave you, Arthur. Alone. All alone. What will you do, Arthur? It teased. When we leave you alone. All alone. Please, he said in a childlike voice. What will you do, Arthur? Because you know no one loves you. Please, he said, still pleading, louder this time. No one loves you but us. What will you do? Please, please don't. No one cares for you. I can't, he whined. No one wants you, Arthur. Stop. Please, stop. No one can stand you, Arthur. Please. No one can bear to be near you, Arthur, but us. Why do you do this to me? Arthur buried his head in the garbage-smeared hands and sobbed. Everyone's left you, Arthur. Why? Oh, why? Oh, God, why? Oh, Jesus, why? Don't say that name. I told you, don't ever say that name. Okay. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I won't. I'm sorry. Sorry. That's better. See? No one else loves you. Not even him. No one loves you. Everyone's left you, Arthur. Your family left you. Your friends have left you. Your wife left you. We are the only ones you have left. Yes, 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 you're right. We are the only ones, Arthur, because we love you, Arthur. You believe that, don't you? Yeah, yes, yes, I do. Good. Now you'll do what we say then, won't you? Yes, came the hollow reply. Good then. What, what do you want me to do? Pitt said obediently. See the girl? Yes. Kill her. It's important that you find her and kill her for us. If you love us, Arthur, you'll do this for us. For us, Arthur. Okay. You don't like him, do you? Who, Arthur? You know who. The brown giant. He frightens you, doesn't he? Don't ever ask us questions again. You just do what we say. And Arthur? Yes. Kill him too. Very important. Kill him too. For us. Pitt continued to stare at the image on the screen. He had stabbed her in the chest and head several times. He was amazed that she was still alive. He learned now that her name was Virginia Sills and that she was a new paralegal working her way through school and attended the prestigious Georgetown School of Law. She had been a hard-working young lady who had been on the honor roll of her high school, Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Afterwards followed a litany of people who were shocked by the attack, and still others who refused to believe that she could have had anything to do with the death of the nurse. An exasperated James D. Wilkerson, chief of police, was peppered with questions about the inability of police to locate a veritable giant who should stick out like a sore thumb, and a formerly comatose woman who still had to be incredibly weak from being bedridden for 6 weeks. Why hadn't the police been able to find them? Was this indicative of the police department's inability to handle high profile cases? And a follow up question, please. If the police were indeed unable to handle and swiftly close such a high profile case, how could the public possibly have confidence in their ability to handle the smaller everyday crimes? How were the killers able to get away with the officer on duty right in the hospital? Did they really believe that the patient was involved in the murder? Have the police consulted with the FBI? Was there an FBI agent assigned to the case? Would he be in charge of the case? There were allegations of corruption made last week regarding the department. Would this current dragnet over the city and the citywide manhunt interfere with that investigation? No? Well, would that investigation affect the use of manpower by tying down other officers that should be involved in the search? What could he tell the residents of the district to assure them that they or their loved ones wouldn't be the next victim of this crazed killer? Was it true that the new addition to his house was paid for by a local businessman? Exasperated even further, the chief of police left the blare of the lights abruptly. Muttering that he had no more time for questions, he stalked off, his patience at an end. An officer in the Office of Public Affairs stepped in front of the gaggle of bright lights and hungry reporters to inform them that they would be briefed again as soon as there was any substantial new leads or information. A fact sheet was distributed of current leads the department was investigating. Finally, they showed a tearful mother and a stoic-looking father who came on an appeal for the release of their daughter. This was followed by another appeal to the hordes of press that trample their lawn like African locusts. We're just a typical hard-working African American family. Therefore, we hope that you'll understand when I say that we're not used to this kind of attention and publicity. Please respect our privacy and extreme concern during this trying time. Any questions you have, please direct them to our family attorney. Thank you. One could see that Robert D. Sills, once proud shoulders, now stooped under a burden that many viewing parents were glad that they did not have to bear. An additional burden for Robert Sills was the fact that the last memory he had of his daughter was of her shouting at him in anger from the other end of the phone, telling him that she was going to live life on her own terms. Nearby, Virginia's mother, also named Virginia, a woman in her 40s and strikingly attractive, looked haggard and worn after her 6-week ordeal beside her comatose daughter's bedside. And now, this. The family attorney appeared looking appropriately concerned and displayed a large photo of the missing young woman, an appeal for the public's help in finding her. The image of Virginia in happier days filled the screen. Pitt reached out and touched the glass window tenderly, as if it had been her face. He must find her and finish what his voices had told him to do. His voices would help him. He suddenly felt them moving deep down inside of him. His entire mood changed in an instant, and he giggled devilishly. He felt better now, much better. He liked it when he felt them move inside. It reassured him of their presence and that they were not going to leave him. He felt comforted. They would never leave him, as long as he did exactly what they told him to do. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to reflect back on the night of the rape. There had been an odd occurrence that night, one that he would never forget. There had been a lightning strike in the alley moments after the rape that he had committed, not more than 10 feet away from him. It alarmed him so much he thought that God was trying to strike him dead for what he had just done to the girl. His eyes had exploded with light, and it took him several moments to get his sight back. When he did, he couldn't believe his eyes. For a brief moment, he actually saw his voices in that brief flash of lightning. And he did not like what he saw. He saw an unearthly thing, dressed in rags, peering at him, turning its malformed head this way and that, as if trying to determine whether Pitt could indeed see him or not. Pitt couldn't help but react with revulsion as the thing moved closer, crouching low for a better look. It reacted with surprise at his reaction, although not altogether displeased. "It can see us! The chalice! It can see us!" Pitt looked beyond it to a group of about 15 creatures standing around something or someone lying on the ground. Several more loathsome and shadowy things crawled around the fallen Virginia, sniffing and licking the air around her as if savoring the aroma of her pain and torment. "Leave him! Come help us! It is the effects of the lightning. They will wear off soon enough. He will soon forget. Quickly, we must finish this before help arrives." The figure who spoke seemed in charge. The creature in front of him turned in seeming compliance, then paused and looked over his humped shoulder back at him. It stole a glance at his leader, Sleen, who was once again preoccupied with the pummeling of something on the ground. This misshapen thing turned a depraved grin on Pitt, and as it did so, the multitude of pustules around his eyes and mouth started to burst and stream little murky yellow jets of repulsive and putrid-smelling liquid down his repugnant and revolting face. Even Pitt found it nauseating and disgusting. He felt his stomach begin to heave, and he fought for control of it. He found himself backing away as the creature seemed fascinated with him. And stealing another glance at its leader here and there, it eased its way up to Arthur, continuing to turn his head this way and that. Pitt was visibly shaken, and he looked around him. He was trapped in a corner of the alley, and there was no way out except past this thing. This must be a dream of some kind, he told himself. A nightmare. Meanwhile, the creature kept turning its massive malformed head from one side to the other, examining Pitt's reaction. It noted with deep interest and even deeper satisfaction Pitt's repugnance to its many infectious-filled pustules. To Pitt, it seemed the thing derived tangible pleasure from his revulsion. It started playing with the pustules on his face like some depraved, pimple-faced kid. It threatened him with a squirt from one of the many fetid-filled lumps of skin. Arthur J. Pitt, trembling with revulsion, found himself backed as far into the corner of the trash-strewn alley as he could go. He had tried keeping a 10-foot cushion of distance between him and his painstakingly slow stalker. The creature, hunched and bent over, almost crawling on all fours, would raise up every few seconds and sniff and then lick the air euphorically as he backed the frightened rapist into the corner. Pitt watched his cushion of space shrink from 10 feet to 6 feet, 6 feet to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2. The thing raised up on his haunches, sniffing and licking again. Pitt watched the long, gray, scum-covered tongue carefully cringing every time it came near him. Though for now, the creature seemed content to just lick the air around him. It seemed to be milking the fear right out of him, and then like a drug, inhaling and licking it from the very air and enjoying it immensely. It stopped and looked at him greedily. It smiled. The massive wart-filled head was hairless, except for one single strand, trapped in a lump of putrid flesh ripe for bursting. The head was low to the ground now, as if its sheer weight kept the creature from raising it too often. It seemed to be pondering something, whether to continue this slow and delightful nursing process, or to quickly put an end to it before he was missed. It lunged at Arthur suddenly and squeezed one of the large pustules on his malformed face, bursting it violently. It grinned and tittered evilly as at Pitt's terrified recoil. Pitt flung himself backwards with nowhere to go. Quickly he raised his arm to shield himself and turned his head at the last second. Too late. He felt the warm, viscous liquid strike his left cheek and slowly run down under his chin. It seemed to have a life of its own as it slowly ran down his neck. It had the feel of 1,000 maggots trying to dig into his beard and under his skin. The 6-foot 6-inch rapist screamed like a 6-year-old child as he tried to run, wiping his neck desperately with his filthy sleeve. He tripped over a rusty paint can and fell heavily to the pavement. The wind knocked out of him. Pitt almost lost consciousness and lay there for a long moment. Sree, you maggot! I told you, leave him alone. You prolong the effects by the agitation of his fears. The thing shrank at the reprimand. But I was just feeding. It's so delicious. Hard to resist. I could not help. Silence! Your greed will be the ruin of you yet. Get over here and... Pitt must have lost consciousness for a few seconds, because when he awoke, he was alone, except for the girl who lay dying in her own blood. He figured that he must have had a seizure or something and passed out. It was a dream. It had all been a dream, except, that is, for her. She hadn't been a dream. He had heard a car approaching and had hurried away from the scene. That must have been when the police found her, he thought to himself. As he stood now, remembering the events of almost 2 months ago, he absentmindedly scratched his matted and food-flecked beard. His hand fell casually to his throat and began absent-mindedly scratching the huge pustule that had been growing there for weeks. Marcellus Grimes believed in doing whatever it took to get ahead. Whatever it took. If it meant he had to break a few eggs, a few hearts, a few heads, didn't matter. Results. That's what mattered. That's why when Mac, in the sex crimes unit, sent over a file for his old partner Bill Trumbull, marked urgent and confidential, Marcellus decided to take a look. He made sure no one was looking when he slipped it up under his jacket and headed to the men's room. Well, now, let's see what old Bill is up to. He opened the file in the stall, and the first thing that struck his eye was a mugshot of one Pitt Arthur J. As he continued to read, he discovered that Trumbull had been holding out on him. When Trumbull was in SCU, the sex crime unit, he had been the detective assigned to investigate the rape of a certain paralegal named Virginia Sills, the same Virginia Sills who was now missing. Once Trumbull had left SCU, they had still continued to work the case and came up with a suspect who had been seen in the area, this Pitt character. As Marcellus read Pitt's rap sheet, he became more and more convinced that this was their man. The guy was big, about 6'6". He weighed 260 to 280 pounds. The guy had been living on the streets for the past few years, had a series of assault charges, and was wanted for questioning and a dozen more. He was noted as a Chapter 35 and extremely dangerous. Marcellus looked at the mugshot again. Scruffy looking character. No more so, though, than all the other homeless in D.C., he thought. Except for the eyes. There was something kind of strange about the eyes. No matter. He'd have this case wrapped up now in no time. He finished reading the file and the special note that Mac had included for Bill. We've been so short-handed since you left that we haven't been able to follow up our leads on this guy. We know he likes to hang out in Southwest, around Half Street. We alerted officers that patrol that area to be on the lookout for him, but so far nothing. Bill, this guy is dangerous, so don't try taking him down by yourself. He migrated down here from Jersey. I got a buddy on the force up there, and I'll put in a call to see if he has anything. I'll let you know as soon as I have anything more. Mac. Marcellus noted with interest another piece of information that Mac had included about the girl, Virginia Sills. The information made him raise his eyebrows in surprise. But no matter. It was this Pitt he was after. The girl was ancillary. That's it then, Marcellus thought to himself. That's my guy. The guy was so close to the height of the suspect, had a ton of priors, was the same joker who probably assaulted the girl in the first place. Yeah, this had to be him. In 30 seconds, he had all the loose ends tied up in his mind. He obviously had found out the girl was still alive, had come back to finish out his sick fantasy, but Ethel Mars got in the way, so he killed her. With all the screaming and commotion going on, he panicked, took the girl, and maybe has her in some out-of-the-way place, planning to finish the job. Or maybe he took her as insurance, just in case the police got too close. Piece of cake. He had a snitch that lived in Southwest who should know where this joker could be found. Should have this case solved by morning, and no one would be the wiser as to how he did it. He stood up, whistling to himself, flushed the toilet so as not to raise suspicions. He slipped the file back up under his suit jacket, walked out of the stall, and into his partner, Bill Trumbull. Hey, Marcellus. Oh, Bill, hi. Hey, what's up, partner? Good to see you. How's it going? All right, said Bill, washing his hands. Is that you fucking up the bathroom like that? Bill chided. Me? No, man, you know me, Marcellus said, smiling. My stuff don't stink, 'cause I'm too cool, he added, slipping out of the men's room and heading quickly down the stairs to his car. 10 minutes later, Matt Colon of SCU stuck his head in the office and dropped by to see his old friend. Hey, Bill. Mac! Hey, how's it going, partner? How are things back at the ranch? Bill said, smiling broadly. The two of them had been through a lot of scrapes together, from Vietnam to the streets of D.C. There was a genuine bond between them. Okay, but missing you like crazy, man. I'm the only one that does any real work down there now. He smiled, then turned serious. Say, did Marcellus give you that file on Pitt? On who? Pitt, Arthur J. You know, the suspect in that rape case you asked me about. The one you're working on. No, said Bill, the smile suddenly gone from his face. He didn't give it to you? No, said Bill, through tight lips. When did you give it to him? Not 20 minutes ago. No wonder he was in such a hurry to get out of the men's room. That no good. You mean he didn't give it to you? I marked it urgent and confidential. That don't mean a thing in the world to that toadstool, other than you better look at it and see what it is now. Bill was incensed. I'm sorry, Bill, apologized Mac. It's not your fault, Mac. Fill me in. Tell me what you got. Well, what I dropped by to tell you is that I heard back from a buddy of mine who works homicide in the Jersey PD. This boy is dangerous. A real nutcase. They've been looking for this guy, Pitt, for quite a while. He's wanted for questioning in a number of ritual murders up there. Gruesome stuff, including a cop killing. A cop killing? Yeah. Seems the guy used to be a hunter before he went nuts. Carried this huge knife around. He used to use to skin deer, some monster of a thing he ordered through mail order. He killed one officer and skinned the guy's partner alive with it. Guy's crippled for life. Can't show his face anywhere. Sick, gasped Bill. Yeah, it's no wonder everyone at the hospital was so amazed the rape victim's still alive. He must have been scared off before he could finish. And by the way, he's got a thing for wearing his overcoat all the time. Never takes it off, not even in the summer. My buddy says this guy stinks to high heaven. He's been classified as a Chapter 35, a sexual psychopath. Come with me, Mac, Bill said suddenly. Where we going? Said Mac, following him out the door. See Captain Hanley, my boss. Just then another thought struck Mac. On the way down the hall to Captain Hanley's office, Mac stopped his friend, pulled him by the arm to the side of the busy hallway. What is it? Bill said, puzzled. Mac ran his hand through his thinning hair and said, Well, I guess, since you didn't get the file, then there's no way for you to know this either. Know what? Said Bill impatiently. She's pregnant. What? The girl? You're kidding. No. Hospital does follow-up tests on all rape victims, to make sure there's no STDs or whatever. Only this time, there turned out to be a big whatever, pregnancy. And there's one more thing. There's more? What's that? She was taken before they could tell her, so she doesn't know. But how do they know? Could it be by a boyfriend or? Afraid not. All accounts, she was a virgin, saving herself for marriage. And that's confirmed by the amount of damage that was done. She's now 6 weeks pregnant by that animal that raped her. Oh, no. Seems you have two victims to search for now. I just hope that you find them in time. They had started down the hallway again when Mac's face turned up as if he had just eaten a sour pickle. Bill glanced back to see why his friend was lagging behind. Now what's eating you? There's one more thing that may not be related, he said slowly, as if reluctant to bring it out. Bill threw his hands up in exasperation as they stopped in front of a well-worn door with faded black letters, which read, Captain Hanley, Chief of Detectives, Homicide Division. Mac, you know I hate it when you do that. Give me stuff piecemeal. Come on, man. Spill it. All of it. Well, maybe it's nothing, but the doctor? The one that worked on the girl in the emergency room and saved her life? Yeah, said Bill impatiently, like a little boy waiting to go to the bathroom. He's missing. Yeah, so maybe he's on vacation or something. Nah, He went missing the day they saved the girl's life, and no one's seen him since. His best friend, senior staff doctor, what's his name? Dr. Hardison. That's it, yeah. He died of cancer 3 weeks later. And this guy never showed up for the funeral. Hasn't been back to his apartment in weeks now, says his landlord. His mother's filled out a missing persons report, but so far, nothing. Strange. That's what I thought. All right, Mac, what's his name? Jeffries. Yeah, Dr. William Jeffries. Next time, we'll read chapter 5, That Which is Done in the Dark. Thank you for being with us for this reading. And again, this reading is from the book Dark Things, which is available via Amazon.com, BooksAMillion.com, and Borders.com. God bless. See you next time.